Hi, how are you? You have an ID?
I don't want to give it to you. Why do I have to give it?
Because my attorney said not to.
Why do I have to give it to you? This is evidence. She's under arrest. I have to go with you. I have to go. I have to do a break.
Let me help you out.
No, I have to stay. Please don't do this. Don't stay. You need to grab the bags. Take the bags. Yeah. And you need to wait outside. Okay.
My husband's almost 80 years old. He can't
Yeah,
come
I
with
can't.
me.
Please, can I go? No, you can't join me there. Oh, don't do this, please.
Please.
Oh,
Someone's
God.
got to help him get home. This is terrible. You can't do this. This is insane.
Is that okay with you?
Please. You don't have that with handcuffs on. She's not going anywhere. Please. Please.
You have anything in your pocket?
No.
Do you have anything of value in you?
No, I
Plus you have a necklace on. You
Wanna go?
can take
My-
the necklace
I'll take
Yeah, take it off. Yeah.
and the earrings.
And the earrings. The
You are listening to the Roberta Glass True Crime Report, putting the true back in true crime. From New York City, Roberta Glass is now on the record. Okay. How is everybody? Wanted to talk today about Georgia Cappleman and really Sarah Dugan. Their boss moves in Donna Adelson's upcoming trial. Now, this is something that I had talked about before. We had gotten just a small witness list, not the full witness list in Donna Adelson's trial. And on it was a few names we never seen before, but some familiar names. Robert Adelson, the eldest son in the Adelson clan, the one who removed himself from the family and right around the time that he figured out that his family, or he suspected that his family was responsible for the murder of his ex-brother-in-law, Dan Markell, but also on the witness list for the prosecution. So let's remember, right, was Charlie Adelson. So let's remember that Charlie Adelson's defense was that he was extorted by Katie McBanoa. Maybe Sigfredo Garcia was into it. It's such a complicated tale that I'm honestly not sure that I fully understand the first layer of extortion and the second layer of extortion. I'm not sure I fully understand how it all went. I get when I was watching his cross-examination again today, I'm like, do I fully understand this? Is this even making sense? But of course I don't understand it because it really doesn't make sense. But help me out if you can, if you fully understand what the first and the second layer of extortion is. I think the second layer is when he realizes that Katie McBanoa is in on it, right? So what that means is for Donna, okay? So Donna Adelson has Alec Morris and Dan Rachbaum, who, thank you for reminding me, was originally Harvey and Donna's lawyer, a civil attorney, so generally practices civil law, then became Charlie Adelson's criminal attorney. And when it came time when Donna got arrested, She originally picked DeCalzo. I think I'm Maricel DeCalzo. I feel like I'm mispronouncing her name. Excuse me if I am. And then switched to Dan Rashbaum. So even with all the issues there, very close to the family, she worked it out with a judge and he's representing her. So it's not going to be any appeal issues that he couldn't fully represent her correctly because she was Charlie Adelson's attorney. So anyway, we have to think that Donna Adelson's defense has to be similar to Charlie Adelson's defense. Unless Daniel Rashbaum, who has a history, was a poker player, is going to come in with a whole brand new defense and is going to basically say, yeah, Charlie, yeah, that was made up to defend Charlie, but Donna, and say this was done by Charlie and Donna didn't know anything about it. That's one, or was told the extortion story. But I would think that her defense would be that her son was extorted and she was paying off this extortion and she was doing what her son told her to do. So what I'm saying is her best witness for her defense is Charlie Adelson. Now he's coming from prison. You got to say that, but he can give his tale of woe on the stand and say, I was wrongfully convicted. I'm an innocent man. And this, he can be very convincing at times. Even I, just listening to the jailhouse calls between Charlie Adelson and Donna at times, for a second and a half could get moved and say, what would this sound like before I woke up to reality and said, no, it makes no sense. The story makes no sense. It's nonsense. But he can get very convincing at times, let's face it. Tell his tale of woe and get Grandma Gotti, as she's often referred to, off. Get his mother Donna off with this story. So what Georgia Cappleman and Sarah Dugan have done very smartly, representing the state of Florida, is take Charlie Adelson as their witness, meaning they're going to get to him first. They're going to directly examine him first in some of the same ways that they did with Wendy Adelson. Use someone who could possibly be might lie for the defense, might be useful to the defense, and take prosecution witness. I mean, a defense witness is a prosecution witness. It's very smart. So what they've done is just gutted Donna Adelson's defense with this. So before Charlie Adelson can get to the jury and tell his tale of woe first, the jury's going to hear it first from the prosecution, and they will gut him on areas of credibility, believability, and control the narrative. And it's a boss move, and I think it's extremely interesting, and one that's extremely interesting. So there's going to be, other people are saying he's going to come in and throw his mother on the bus, and the state of Florida is going to make some deal with him. I've never seen that. I've never seen that, or feel that will be the. If we're fortune telling, it's so hard to fortune tell this case. It's had so many unusual twists and turns, but I don't feel like that is in character with Charlie Adelson. He's someone who's very arrogant, who, even if his hand is caught in the cookie jar, like he was in his own trial, will still protest his innocence. And I think that the only person he has in the world is his father and his mother, and maybe his son. And according to Donna, you have Bree, you have Dan Rashbaum. So Dan Rashbaum, his lawyer, his former lawyer, and now Donna's lawyer, is really like part of the family now. You have Bree, you have Roman, you have us. That's it. And once he turns on his mom, I mean, what does he have? So I don't see that happening. Not yet. at least. And I think it's a extremely interesting move. So what we heard today, and thank you, Patty's Playhouse, shout out to you, is that they put in the order to move Charlie Adelson from prison to testify, meaning a lot of times you see on these lists, someone's going to testify and they don't testify. Also, the biggest non-story of the year, Luis Rivera's, also an order was put in to move him in September from prison to Tallahassee to testify. I think that was a no-brainer. We all knew that was going to happen. But with Charlie, to know that he's definitely going to testify and he's definitely going to be taken as the prosecution's witness and not the defense's is, like I said, a boss move on Georgia Cappleman's part. So that should be very interesting. We can take a look a little bit later. I'm going to keep this pretty brief today at the beginning of Charlie Adelson's cross-examination. Now, of course, direct, you can't ask leading questions. You're a little bit under stricter guidelines of what you can do, but it can still be very effective, as you saw with Wendy Adelson. Of course, she was given immunity. And it also brings up the issues, and I'm going to look at your comments and then we can talk about it a little bit more, of the fact that Harvey and Donna, now we just listened to the jailhouse calls where Donna is crying and saying, my son has been given a death sentence and I want to end it all or flee. Those were her two choices, and it's so terrible. But both Harvey and Donna, hold on. Sorry, I had to cough. And were given the opportunity to testify in Charlie's case. In fact, I believe they were subpoenaed to testify and fought it and said we were going to take the fifth and lie under oath, in my opinion, for him on the stand and maybe get him acquitted. Certainly would have been something more than himself. That was all Charlie Adelson had in the end, was himself. He was his own witness. He had a jury consultant and himself in his defense. So Josh Dubin from the Innocence Project, picking out the jury, that was their strategy, and Charlie was going to take the stand for himself. And no one else in the whole world could back up his story. And it may have meant something to a couple jurors who may have been able to convince all of the jurors that there was a reasonable doubt. If someone like Donna had testified, because in his testimony, he says he whispers to his dad at one point something, and he told his mom everything. So just when we're feeling sorry for Donna, like I sometimes can, it's hard to listen to someone boo-hoo, even fakely on the tapes. Remember that she had a chance to testify and even stay in the area, and she chose to do what was best for her and flee. So let's take a look at your comments. And this is Robin Morelli, 8759, but I got so many comments that were so useful. Thank you, everybody, about this. I just couldn't put them all in. About the Baker Act. So there's a time when I thought Wendy said something like, after Donna said she was going to end it all, I'm going to correct you. And what she's saying is I'm going to Baker Act you, which is like a 50-51 hold in California, which is if you're going to end it all or you need to be put under observation for your mental health. It's a similar thing. So thank you. So Robin Morelli, 8759 says, yes, when she said, meaning Wendy, I'm going to Baker Act you. Thank you, Robin, and everyone else who left a similar comment. Carol Sweet, one says, at 1 hour, 2 minutes, 41 seconds, when Donna is reading this email letter from Wendy, where Wendy says, I didn't do anything. I am not responsible for Danny's death. Wendy knows there is a likelihood of it being read when and if Donna was going to trial. Right on target, Carol, sweet, you got it. She's a lawyer. She knows how to COA. Wendy is smart, trying to deny her involvement. She knows by denying it on this letter, she feels it will be evidence to show she didn't do anything. If that makes sense, you are 100% right. I'm with you, Carol. Love your voice, imitation of Donna. Thanks so much. The Jewish mother. Yes, she's a Jewish mother, Carol. She's a Jewish mother. And she's in distress. We've all been aggravated. G. Lander, 388 says, this is Donna in court. I said that Donna, let's just take a quick look at what she looked like in court. All smiles, very chipper. G. Lander, 388 says, Donna has been coached to not dare display her antics from the original hearing, which I played some of yesterday. She is putting on the, quote, performance of a lifetime, trying to be the opposite of what she did when the judge had to chastise her to behave. She's trying to be likable. Yeah, I agree with that. And even you could see even in that little clip, even when the jail employee says, you know, I heard on a tape where she said she was going to end it all. She was going to use pills. Donna starts to smile, almost a nervous smile. So you can see it in that tape too. So very agree with you. But I do think that she does look, a lot of people said like she put on weight. She looks healthier. And I do stick by my original observation that I do think, for one, and other people said this in the comments, and I do read all your comments. Thank you. And I do get a lot out of them. So thank you to everybody who leaves comments. That she's also, Dan Rashbaum is so good at soothing her nerves. It's one of the reasons she picked him. She trusts him. He knows how to talk to her, flatter her. She's a high anxiety, high control. She needs to be in control woman, and Dan Rashbaum puts her at ease. It's one of the reasons he picked her. I think Dan Rashbaum is talking it up, saying, Donna, you're going to do so well in trial. We're going to beat this. I've learned from Charlie's case, and I know just what to do. I know how to handle it. I'm going to ask for a smaller courtroom. And she does think she's going to beat the case. But I also think Leon County Jail, as far as jails go, offers more services, more things, very organized, clean from what I've heard, and pretty easy jail. Even Charlie says, talks about it. Easy jail to be in. As far as jails go, it's never easy to be in jail. But I stand by my original statement that she knows the system in jail now. She no longer has to worry about getting caught. I think my cat is having a nervous breakdown. He has food, everybody. Just wants my attention. He's just a spoiled guy. And I think that she's knows who her friends are, knows how to get things, knows how to get around, and makes her feel in control. Okay, how is that? So, in celebration of Charlie, I just want to play a quick. Let's see. Oh, maybe I'll save that for next time. I really do want to keep it short today. I just wanted to play a little bit a little bit of the beginning. So we just had an idea. So this is how it's going to go. Just imagine this in Donna's trial. This is his cross-examination. Of course, he's going to be asked by Georgia Cappleman about his great extortion. So I would think that, let me see if my computer is going to cooperate today.
Mr. Adelson, is it doctor?
It is, yes.
All right, doctor. Have you ever heard the saying that the simplest explanation is always the most likely? Have you heard that?
I've heard that theory before, yeah.
Was your explanation to the jury over the last little over a day the simplest explanation?
It was the truth.
You have a thorough explanation. Would you agree with that?
I told you what happened.
Do you agree that the only problem with having an explanation for everything is that there's just so many explanations?
There's no explanation. I explained what happened.
I want to go through some of that. You claim that you were extorted on July 18th, 2014 by Catherine Magdanoa and also in the background, some Latin kings, probably Garcia and Rivera, right? Is that accurate?
No, I wasn't extorted by Catherine Magdanoa.
You weren't? Okay,
That's not what I believed in 2014.
Okay, I'm sorry. I understood you to say you believe that today.
Today I do, yes.
All right, so who extorted you?
I believe that it was Catherine Magdanoa's friend that she ran her mouth to.
So that's just a little bit of double talk. So he's totally agreeing with Georgia Cappleman, and then he's saying, no, I don't know if he was purposely trying to confuse the jury or just trying to get over on Georgia Cappleman. I would think the latter is what he was trying to do. No, that's not what was happening. Oh, you mean you didn't think all those people were extorting you? Well, not back in 2012, but now, definitely, now I do. So I was correct. So eventually I was totally correct. Now you believe that. Yes. I mean, it just seems like he wants to want just a little game of one-upmanship.
2014.
Right, but as you sit here today, you think it's Magdanoa, Garcia, and Rivera. Is that accurate?
No, that's not accurate.
Okay. Who extorted you?
As I sit here today, I believe that it was Catherine Magdanoa, and I believe Sigfredo Garcia, but I don't know for sure. I was never there when she was ever talking to him, so I don't know if he was in on it with her or not.
All right. At the time, though, you did not think she was guilty. You got that right. The time of the extortion.
In 2014?
Yes.
Correct.
Okay. And then so exactly when you found out would be, I think you said, her trial.
That I suspected that she was not telling me the truth and she was a part of it was in 2019.
At her trial?
Yes.
All right. And so she was arrested in 2016, right?
Yes.
All right. So for 3 years, she was in the Leon County Jail awaiting trial. Yes?
She was there.
And you believed she was innocent.
Yes.
And you had this whole explanation to assist with exonerating her, right?
I have the truth of what happened, yes.
But you didn't offer the truth of what happened, did you?
Nobody came to me. I thought the truth would come out.
Does someone have to come to you? I
was told not to talk to Katie and not to talk to anybody about this case by counsel.
Okay.
Oh.
So
isn't that, it's really gratifying to watch Georgia Cappleman try to figure this out herself. She's like, so you didn't believe this then, but you believe this now. What exactly? She's having a hard time making sense of it. Excuse me, not 2012, 2014. So excuse me, she's like trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And we're only going to do just a little bit of this, but she's trying to figure out this ridiculous story. Imagine this in Donna's trial. Yes, I did all this for my son because he was on a payment plan from the Latin Kings. You can even see behind Georgia Cappleman, the audience's faces. Granted, they're sitting on the prosecution side. They're probably already not fans of Charlie Adelson and the Adelson clan, but they're trying to understand it. And they're like, And Ruth Markel is like, I can't even believe this is going on. I can't believe they're trying to put this over on the court. It's so absurd. It's such a ridiculous story.
You strike that. On day one, which is July 18th, 2014, she is the only one that physically contacted you to conduct this extortion. Am I correct in that?
Yes, you are.
So you never actually had any contact with any Latin King?
No.
No phone calls?
No phone calls.
No texts?
No.
No letters?
Well, in 2016, you're talking about in 14, right?
I'm talking about the first layer of the extortion. Did you have any contact with the thugs that were getting your money for 2 years?
No.
Did anybody put a gun to your head?
I was told that I would be killed in 48 hours if I didn't pay up.
I heard you say.
Right. So they just told me I was going to be killed. I didn't have to see anyone. They just had to threaten me verbally. And that was that. Because I'm the kind of, and I just opened my safe and I dumped a whole pile of money in Catherine McBanowa's lap. Because that's the way I am. If you want to see who the culprit is, this is the culprit. The culprit, the meower, is having a nervous breakdown during the show. Kitty nervous breakdown. Little guy. So, yeah. I mean, just, it so fits Charlie Adelson's personality, doesn't it? Mr. Have to, the maestro, the one in control. Katie McBanowa, 5'1", maybe 115, 20 pounds of nothing, just says, oh, they're going to kill you. And he's like, oh, that's good enough for me. Let me hand over everything I have in my safe. I don't have it all. Can you put me on a payment plan? Sure. Let me go in the other room and close the door. Sure. Yeah. Just give me $3,000 a month. No problem. Me, the rich dentist with all this, with a family, with all this property. I can't get it to you right away. I know you heard we were going to pay $1 million, but that was all of us. This is just me here. I was going to pay $333,000, but that might put me out a little bit to pay it all. Don't worry. The Latin Kings, they're very understanding. They'll work with you. Don't worry about it. This story, this ridiculous story, I believe, maybe with a twist, with a Donna twist, a Rashbaum surprise, possibly, coming in September. I really need the society page to make me a preview. Coming in September, this is the ridiculous story that's going to come at Donna Adelson's trial.
Say that, but my question is, did anyone put a gun to your head?
You're asking me, did anyone pull a gun on me?
That's what
Is
I
that
asked
your
you.
question? No, nobody pulled a firearm on me.
All right, so when Catherine McBanowa came to you on July 18th and said, open the safe and give me all your money, she was not armed.
She was not carrying a gun that day,
And
no.
were you armed at that time? Did you have a weapon in your home?
I had weapons in my safe, yes.
Were you led to believe or told that the bad guys are outside, right outside your apartment or your residence?
No, but I was led to believe what they did to Dan, they were going to do to me.
I heard you say that, but my question is, did she say, like, the car's running, I'm going to take the money out there to him right now?
No, she never told me that they were waiting for me outside my house.
In fact, she stayed the night with you, didn't she?
Yes, she did.
And didn't exit your house with your $138,000 until the next day, right?
Correct.
And the money, the $138,000, was that stapled into $1,000 increments?
Each packet was $1,000, and had a staple in it.
And stapling money's a little unusual. Would you agree with that?
For me, it wasn't unusual. That's what I did.
Right, but Nobody else does it. That's why I'm suggesting it's unusual.
I've never questioned people into how they keep their money, whether they keep it with a staple or a paper clip or an envelope. I just know what I do.
Would you agree, Doctor?
Yeah, I put a staple in it, and then I put a wax seal onto every $1,000 for M for Maestro. I mean, yeah, that I don't know anyone else who staples your money. Like, and he's going to say it's not unusual because I did it. But Georgia Cappleman gets the relevance of that right away and says, "Oh, really? So you're saying it was your money?" Just so you know, jury, take note. That stapled, moldy money, that was Charlie Adelson's money. You can decide whether he's tailoring his story. So I believe that this story was tailored by Charlie Adelson. One point he says, you can look at my gym records. He knows everything. Because of the rules of the court, the prosecution has to hand over all the evidence. Charlie Adelson says in his cell, he had notes and notes and notes and notes and notes and notes and notes. He looked at every piece of evidence, and he knew he could tailor his story tailor a story that fit all the evidence. But what Georgia Cappleman did so brilliantly in her closing argument, which is why Charlie Adelson hates it so much, is she said, sure, Charlie Adelson has a reason, as a story for everything. Sure, it all fits with his story, but does it make sense? And does all of it fit? Meaning the text messages, and we're going to see those in a few minutes, having a great day, going to the gym. And Charlie Adelson goes, yeah, you can check my gym records. He knows they don't have his gym records from 2014. He knows they don't have them. Forget it. What gym keeps records like that for that long? 10 years, you know? Good luck trying to get them. So he knew he could be like, nope, I stayed home all day. You can even check the gym records. And also what I think he did is he practiced with Dan Rashbaum, and he went over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Dan Rashbaum played Georgia Cappleman, and he prepared him for this cross, but he was too slick, too in control, not natural. He was professional. It was like a kid taking a test and making sure he got every answer right. That's not a natural flow of information. When you are telling the truth, you don't have to remember anything. You know that famous quote? You have nothing to forget. With Charlie Adelson, he had to remember every little detail and get his story perfect. And I know Dan Rashbaum denies it, because of course he would. It doesn't make him look good. But I believe he did say, Charlie Adelson, I give you a 90 on your testimony. I just seems, I don't know. I think it happened. I kind of believe, even though Charlie, they're both such unreliable narrators, I believe Charlie on that.
That it's a compelling piece of evidence that the killers were paid in stapled money and came up with that information in this case.
It's not compelling. The people who extorted me and got my money got it from my house, and it was stapled at my house.
They had to have gotten it from you, right? Because it was stapled.
If they got it from Katie, they got it from me.
So it had to be some...
Okay. He's talking about the stapled money. Barb Nauman, nice to see you, Barb. Roberta, what's your guess? Will Donna come to court dressed to the nines or look like a corpse? She's incredibly vain. What do you think? Well, she can't shop for herself. And you know Wendy's not going to help her out, you wouldn't think. So she's going to rely on what, Dan Rashbaum or someone in Dan Rashbaum or Alec Morris's office to get her clothes, which she's paying for. Or Harvey, I don't know if she can fit into, it depends what kind of clothes she has and how much they stretch. She's kind of a casual, so you saw in the opening with the bump, she's a very Florida casual person. I'm sure she has some dress clothes. I think she'll dress nicely, but I think her age will be played up. I think she's hoping that her hair, she may cut out, the dye in her hair and try to look as old. I think she'll try to look like a librarian, just like Ghislaine Maxwell did. Like a librarian or a Sunday school teacher, someone trustworthy. And that's what you frankly want to look like. But I don't think she'll be overdressed or too well dressed if they can find some of her clothing. I know she was, I don't know what she did with it. She may have given a lot of it away, preparing to leave for Vietnam. That's a really interesting question. What happened to her wardrobe? How much did she take with her? And what did she do with all her more wintry clothes, even for Miami? Good question, Barb. Thanks. Back to the stapled money.
I paid, but I did it under duress based on that piece of evidence, right? That had to be built into your defense.
I was extorted and I paid the money.
All right. So Katie comes in and she's in a panic and she tells you what's happened. And I need all the money in your safe right now. Do you suspect that maybe she's working with the police at that point? Maybe she's trying to set you up?
No, she didn't say I need all the money in your safe. That's not what she said.
Did she take all the money in your safe?
I cleaned out all the money in my safe and handed it to her.
Right. Why did you do that?
Because I was being extorted for $333,000.
But why didn't you? The bump was only $5,000, and you immediately became suspicious and questioning and had all these conversations and deliberations about what to do about it for days. When Katie comes to you, you just open the safe and give her the money, right?
That's what I did. And there's a big difference between the two.
Okay, well, the way that it was done to you, is that the way it's done?
You have to be more specific. Please.
Well, on the wire, you say repeatedly, that's not the way it's done. You knew that the undercover agent was law enforcement, or at least strongly suspected, because that's not the way it's done. And my question to you is, since you're an expert on extortion, because you've been extorted before, and that's how you knew that's not the way it's done, is this the way it's done? Do extortionists send a girlfriend of their victim to collect their extortion money? Is that the way it's done, doctor?
I'm telling you what happened to me. And I was told that if I didn't pay in 48 hours, I would be killed. The person that came and extorted my mom, that was not the same approach as what happened to me.
Is that the only way? That's the only way it's done? They send the girlfriend?
It's the only time I've ever been extorted like that.
Okay. And did you hear?
Okay, it's interesting because this is why they hate Jeffrey Lacasse so much, because Jeffrey Lacasse's story is of a bragging Charlie Adelson in a hot tub who really can deal with people on either sides of the tracks, who are in the criminal element and in the more 1%ers of society, the super rich, maybe not 1%ers, but the very well off, Miami connected, like his family was, well connected Miami family, can deal with both sides, the educated, the uneducated, the criminal, and those that like the Weinstein family, the judge who really kept them protected, lawyers and judges and all the people in Miami society that kept them protected. So it doesn't really make sense. He's like, for Charlie Adelson to play the sort of nebbish Jewish guy who was so scared of the Latin kings and couldn't even talk to them, had to rely on his girlfriend to be the middle woman. When you hear Jeffrey Lacasse's testimony, it's not consistent. And there was one comment about Wendy Adelson, there being no real evidence against her. And I've talked about this. I think a lot of the evidence is in the testimony of Jeffrey Lacasse, other people, her own actions. There's differences that don't make sense. Her actions don't make sense in any other way than her knowing that Dan Markel was going to be killed that day. Just the driving by, the doing the 3-point turn, not calling the school, not having a babysitter that night. It's like she knew she wasn't going to go to the Stock the Bar party. There's so many, her nervousness, her interest in Jeffrey Lacasse's trip, her intense interest in it. All those things are very compelling evidence. These are the things, if you listen to my interviews with DA John Lewin, this is how they try cold cases where and his specialty is no body cases. And I've talked to him. There's multiple interviews you can listen with him. He talks about how all these little differences. So if you always go to the gym and that day you don't, all those things are very, on its own. All the little changes in behavior that are atypical become very meaningful with the rest of the evidence. And the TV, everything around the TV is so damning that she wanted to keep this cheap, broken TV, that she insisted on her family, meaning her sons and Jeffrey Lacasse, watching a movie on this broken TV and wouldn't let him set up another TV, as if she wanted to make sure that everybody remembered that her TV was broken. I mean, this was a premeditated, planned murder by hire. And I have no doubt that she was a part of it. Not that she heard about it afterwards, not that they did this as a gift. She was a part of it. She was, I believe, Donna and she cooked this up together. But Wendy, being the lawyer, was smarter in covering herself. But as for that text message to Donna saying, I know that I'm not guilty. I know you're angry at me, but I told the truth on the stand. She thinks that that's going to be great evidence for her. But Charlie Adelson said things like that, like, I'm a part of it, but not a part of it. And Donna has I go to the police. I don't know what you're talking about call. But it's so contradictory with all the rest of the evidence that it doesn't really hold weight or water. I think a jury would be able to see through it. Let me know what you guys think.
Any of the negotiate, so they come in and they say strike. They come in and they say, we need $333,000.
You need to pay $333,000.
You need to pay $333,000. Why not $1 million?
Because when I had told to Katie that the $1 million offer for Dan Markel, I said I was going to pay $333,000. And when she asked me, do you have that much money? And I said, yeah, I could pay it in cash. So she took it as I had cash, and she knew I had a ton of cash in my safe. So she thought I had the cash. I didn't have all that cash. So that's where I'm assuming they got the $333,000 from.
But the offer that she bragged about was $1 million offer. Isn't that right? That she ran her mouth about.
I was never there when she spoke to the friend.
Okay, was it $1 million offer?
The offer was that $1 million was going to be paid, and I was going to pay $333,000.
And weren't you going to cover Wendy's third as well?
No, not at all. I was going to cover my third.
Didn't your lawyer say in opening statement that you were going to cover the whole thing for Wendy's third?
No, I was sitting here. I heard what he said. Charlie was going to pay $333,000.
All right.
Do you guys remember if that's right? It'd be interesting to go back to Dan Rashbaum's Snooze Fest opening statement and see what he said. Carolina Gerardo says, in the end, Roberta, Charlie Adelson had to be moved from one prison to another because of the Latin Kings threatened his life. They were just waiting for him, as the Adelsons are privileged. Well, I'm not, I have no doubt that his life was threatened in prison. I've done a Patreon episode about this, talk more about it, but I'm not 100%. I believe this story comes from Rashbaum, that they were so offended by his defense and the Latin Kings. I go over the Latin Kings credo in my Patreon episode and their mission statements and stuff. And I just believe that he was targeted because he knew he had money. Also, Charlie Adelson, you know how much he talks. I can imagine he could be difficult at times as much as he can be easy to get along with. And sometimes he's selfish. And prison is not unlike high school in that you have to think of other people, not his strong suit. So just going to go about 5 more minutes into this together. I think it starts to cook around here. I think it starts to get really interesting. And we can imagine how this is going to play in Donna Adelson's testimony. You know what? Maybe it'll go over better. You never can predict which way a jury will go. Certainly Donna has an advantage being a woman. But in front of a jury, I think there's a lot of really compelling evidence against her. It doesn't mean she's going to be convicted. You never know with a jury. They might convict Charlie Adelson very quickly, and they might hang and they have to try her again. Wouldn't that be delicious to get 2 Donna trials? I'll take it. Not that I wish it, but I have a feeling that it's not going to go over well. The story only makes sense. It played one way. You know, Luis Rivera, Catherine McBanoa, with all their faults, are excellent witnesses. Much more believable than Charlie Adelson. Let me know what you guys think.
And so the offer was $1 million offer, and that's what you told Katie, along with the fact that you were going to cover the third.
I was telling her that I was going to pay a third of $1 million. Yeah. And then one day, if my sister was able to, she was going to pay me back.
And then you didn't have the amount of money that was being demanded at the time, right?
No, I only had what I had.
All right. And at that point, the blackmailer, Catherine McBanoa, negotiates some type of layaway plan for you to complete the extortion with the Latin Kings?
Okay. Katie wasn't the blackmailer, and Katie wasn't the one who was extorting me.
Didn't you just tell this jury that Katie was the blackmailer? You realized it in 2019.
I had thought that when you were just talking, you were talking about 2014. You were talking about that night. Okay. So that night happened in 2014.
Okay. We all know now, because you have revealed the puzzle piece, she's a blackmailer. Can we agree on that?
I believe, sitting here in 2023, that she was in on the extortion for sure.
Yes. So is it okay if I refer to her as a blackmailer?
I think there's a difference between blackmail and extortion, but yeah, sitting here today, we can. Sure.
We'll refer to her as an extortionist. So this woman, the extortionist, is going to do you a solid by negotiating with the Latin Kings for you to get on a payment plan for the extortion. Isn't that what happened?
What you're doing is you're taking what we know in 2003 and trying to say, this is what I knew in 2014.
Did she put you on a payment plan?
Yes, she said, because I didn't have the money, she said, ask me if I could pay $3,000 a month in 2014. And I said, yes, I can. Did
you hear any of the conversation where she was making these negotiations on your behalf?
No, when she said, I'm going to go check with my friend, and if that's okay with him, she took her purse, took her keys, took her cell phone. She walked out of my front door, closed the door behind her, and I sat in my living room, and she came back about 5 minutes later.
You didn't want to talk to the guy yourself?
No, I didn't even think of that. I mean, but she went outside to call him.
All right. And then the two of you took a Xanax and went to sleep.
Well, I took a Xanax. I don't know if she took one out of the bottle, but I definitely did.
And the next morning, she left with your money, right?
She left about 8:30 the next morning.
That's July 19th, 2014?
Correct.
Let's talk about what you did that day. You did not report this to the police because you were in fear, correct?
Absolutely. And
you didn't report this to Wendy, even though, according to you, her life was in danger too, correct?
Potentially, but I planned on paying the extortion every month.
All right. But you did go to the gym that morning, right?
Right. I planned on paying the extortion. I planned to put a reminder in my Apple calendar. Extortion payment due. Beep, 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 beep. Pay the extortion. I planned to pay it. So, Wendy's life was, potentially on the line, but, I counted on my reminders to to make sure she was okay. So absurd. So absurd. Okay, here comes the gym. This is one of my favorite parts of the whole cross-examination is his text messages about the gym. And when she says July 19th, Charlie Adelson has memorized all the evidence. He comes out so naturally. Yes, he knows it backwards and forwards. He's memorized his story backwards and forwards.
Show that text, please. Were you able to go to the gym the next
I
morning?
absolutely didn't leave the house. I worked it out at Nova Southeastern Gym, and you can check the gym records. I was never there.
Okay. Did you say you were going to the gym?
I said I was, yeah.
But you didn't actually go?
No, I didn't leave the house.
All right. So would you agree, Doctor, and we'll refresh your memory with them if we can, that the text messages that were exchanged between yourself and Catherine McBanoa on the morning after this exchange of money were inconsistent with your extortion theory?
They were inconsistent with how I was feeling.
They don't appear to look like you just gave her $138,000 under duress, do they?
She told me the last thing she said to me before she left the house is, can we just pretend like this never even happened? So when I sent her that message, I was trying to show her I'm trying to forget all about it.
Yeah, you were just demonstrating to her that you would agree to pretend nothing happened, right?
Absolutely. That's what she asked me to do, and that's what I tried to do.
All right. So the text messages aren't what they appear to be. It's a beautiful day. I'm going to the pool. I'm going to the beach. I'm going to the gym. None of that is what it appears to be. It's something else.
I absolutely did not go to the gym. I was trying to show her that I was, pretending like nothing ever happened and looking past it.
And there's nothing on the wire. All those hours of you talking. There is nothing on the wire about the extortion, this layer 1 of extortion, because she told you not to talk about it, right?
She told me to never talk about anything to anyone or her. She never wanted to hear about it again.
And yesterday, in your testimony, between you and your attorney, you mentioned the word extortion 123 times. Would you take my word for that?
I'm sure it came up a lot.
Okay. But nowhere, even in the midst of this whole second extortion, it's happening again. It's an extension of the same thing. Do you mention anything about this layer 1 of the extortion? Do you?
Yes, actually, I did.
Okay.
If you pull up the video from Matsuri when I was sitting with my dad, and I said it, and the funny thing is, that's what I whispered in his ear.
Right, but we can't hear that.
Right, because that's my point. I never wanted anybody to hear what had happened. I never wanted the police to come talk to me. But if you put up that video, you'll actually see me saying that into my dad's ear, and that's why I went in and said it. And that's what we were talking about at the time. So it's relevant.
Right. I'm sure it's not that Charlie Adelson reviewed the evidence and saw a moment where he whispered and saw the opportunity to tailor his story at that exact moment to the time that he told his dad something about the extortion. It's so absurd. It's so absurd, guys.
Suri, the only time you mention the extortion, it's in a whisper that is not picked up by the microphones, right?
Intentionally, yes.
Yes. And that was intentional at the time, but it sucks for your defense, right? Because that would be a huge piece of evidence for you to show this jury, wouldn't it?
No, I think you'd come up with a reason why that I said it anyway.
And there's nobody to corroborate this testimony?
There is.
You'd come up with a reason why, meaning you're tailoring your story, prosecution, to the evidence. It's not me that's tailoring my story to the evidence. you prosecution, you Georgia Cappleman would think of a reason why. Because you need to make up evidence. That's one of the things he said to his mother. They twisted it. They cut off my quotes. The rest of the quote would totally explain it. And they only showed parts. I mean, he picks out some of, on its own, the weakest evidence that relies on other pieces of evidence to put it in context as to why it was shown, and takes it out and kind of pulls it apart to say, oh, that their whole case was based on Wendy's book. No, it just supports the emails between Donna and Wendy. And they're all yesing him to death. Meanwhile, oh yes, Charlie, it was so terrible that, and Donna's there going, they had no evidence, none. This stupid. You had overwhelming evidence and they had no evidence, Charlie. Meanwhile, she's fighting with the courts. Don't come in. Meanwhile, we're meant to think that Donna Adelson knew all about this extortion. Her son is facing a death sentence, and she's just not gonna. She just doesn't want to bother to travel to Tallahassee. She's going to sit back because we're all a little bit aggravated. Right? It's nonsense. It's nonsense. And it will really tell you how families can become so enmeshed that they don't believe them. They know the truth, but they tell the story to each other enough that it becomes family myth. And the whole family has to support the myth and keep it going, keep it alive. Just like I played yesterday, we all told Lincoln and Ben, that the boys, the grandchildren, that none of us had anything to do with this. We're all innocent. Tallahassee is terrible, meaning, this is me talking, not Donna. Tallahassee is terrible, which they've said before. I'm not saying that they said this to the boys, but that's what's inferred. We're all innocent. We all had nothing to do with this. Georgia Cappleman is an ambitious prosecutor trying to make her name on these cases and convict innocent people for her own selfish, ambitious reasons. And they all yes each other to death. That's how it goes in the Adelson family. Just a few more minutes of this, and then I'm gonna close it out.
Okay. And the Matsuri, you talked about it again out in the parking lot, right? Wasn't that your testimony?
Yes, we spoke in the parking lot.
Okay, so you did talk about the extortion.
That's
You just didn't do it in a way that it was captured on any of the recordings in this case.
well, we spoke when we had privacy.
Well, you had privacy on the phone, right?
When?
At least you thought you had privacy on the phone every time when you were talking on the phone for hundreds of hours on this wire.
There's always a chance that I was being listened to.
Okay.
I mean,
well, there was a chance you were being listened to when you whispered in Dad's ear, right? But you said it. And you were talking about it.
I whispered real quietly into his ear, so I thought I had privacy. At that point, I thought I had privacy.
And Catherine Magbanua and you discussed this first layer of extortion in the car outside of Dolce Vita too, right?
That's when I found out everything that was going on, and she opened up when I confronted her.
But if this jury could hear that conversation recorded, we would all be hearing basically what you're telling us, that there was an extortion effort that predated the undercover operation. Wouldn't we?
Because I was trying to see if Sigfredo was behind the extortion of my mom, because I knew he was behind. I always had a feeling he was behind what happened to me, and she was having this explosive fight with him, and it was going on the same exact time that my mom started getting extorted. So I thought that he was going after my mom.
Don't you wish that conversation in the car had been recorded?
I don't know.
Wouldn't it prove your theory?
Yeah.
You're talking about the prior extortion.
Then you'd know exactly what happened back then.
Right. Don't you wish your mom would come and testify for you? Wouldn't that prove your story, Charlie? Yeah. I mean, that will tell you. And even I really hope that Robert Adelson testifies, because even if he tells the story that we heard in Over My Dead Body about being a child or being younger and getting too much change back, meaning the wrong change back at a store, and giving the extra change back to the clerk and telling his family and them all making fun of him and calling him Honest Abe and saying, why did you do that? Will say so much about who Donna Adelson is as a mother. All those little details are important. Something I've really been trying to emphasize in my shows for the past couple months is that people like to say, especially Donna and Charlie, pretty much guilty people. I think someone just said, this ambitious prosecutor line is something they heard in Karen Reed. It's something that you often hear in innocence fraud campaigns, that, to give a reason for why this person was picked out, as if Georgia Cappleman just picked out the Adelson family. And strangely, they were connected via Katie McBanoa to the hitman and the killers. I mean, it's just absurd. Like she just picked it out of a hat. I mean, people don't kill people on spec. It's absurd. I'm gonna end this. Actually, I'm gonna end this. I was thinking of taking a break. I think I'm gonna end this the way I do so many times, with a victim impact statement. Hold on 1 second. 1 second. And this was written into the Honorable Stephen Everett in Charlie Adelson's case. To the Honorable Stephen Everett, I met Dan Markell on my first day at Harvard Law School in 1997. We were assigned to the same small group and quickly became friends. Danny was one of my oldest friends, close from those first days in Cambridge to the last several years preceding his death, when we both lived in Tallahassee. He was my classmate, my dance partner, my constant, my advisor, my confidant, my dear friend. We shared past, present, and future. A classmate remembered Danny and I becoming fast friends our first week of law school. You were like, quote, you were like two pieces of the same puzzle, finally reunited, unquote. Until his death, through loves and losses, children, distance, and closeness, that remained true for us. We loved and supported each other. He was a blessing in my life. From many walks around Harvard Square and Tallahassee's Lake Ella to nights of music and dinners wherever we happened to be in the U.S., intellectual discourse and debate, discussions of Judaism, meeting up for our children to play together, and countless hours sharing our deepest truths and understanding over meals, on the phone, or at his home. He was my dear, beloved friend. We watched each other grow and evolve over the years, providing each other advice and encouragement. He lived every moment with joy and loved mightily. When Danny was killed, there was a tremendous outpouring of grief, love, and support from friends, family, colleagues, students, and communities. Not only in Tallahassee, where he lived, in New York, where he often traveled, or at Harvard, where he attended college and law school, but from across the nation, Canada, Israel, and around the world. Even today, people continue to speak of his life and how he personally touched and changed their lives. His voice, his hugs, his heart are missed beyond description. How could one man have such an impact on so many? He was not an actor, politician, or preacher. How could so many feel his loss so deeply? His colleagues and students deeply respected him. His family and extended family of friends loved him unconditionally for the unique, genuine, witty, brilliantly sarcastic, loving, affectionate, intelligent, sometimes goofy, empathetic, kind, adventurous soul that he was. He was indeed a prolific writer, a brilliant mind, an innovative scholar, professor, mensch, and friend who was devoted to his family and faith community. So for those of you who don't know, mensch is a Yiddish word for like good guy. He's like someone, accountable, good guy who does the right thing. He's a mensch. You're like a right on, good person, good man. It's a Yiddish word. His contributions to the legal and academic communities are well documented in more than 30 published articles, in his writings and commentaries on Prof Blog, and in the minds and hearts of the countless colleagues and students he inspired and influenced over the years, whether as a leader at Harvard Hillel, a resident tutor at Lowell House during law school days, a traveling fellow and scholar, or a professor of law at Florida State University. Jewish or not, if you were within traveling radius and Shabbat dinner or any dinner was to be had, you were invited to join Danny. Despite very diverse circles of friends across the world, he managed to be there for his friends. He was referred to as the Great Connector, an internet before there was an internet. He has also been referred to as the Johnny Carson of academics, inviting you to the stage and then encouraging you and inspiring you to reach new personal levels. He has been called a collector of people, the kind of friend who you could not speak to in years, and in a moment of contact, you picked up exactly where you left off. He was quick to foster your potential, to challenge you towards your best, to support you through the best and worst of times. Danny was a seeker of truth and justice, an exceedingly insightful man, unafraid to hear and believe the hardest of truths, unafraid to tell you what he was thinking, unafraid to love and support his friends, unafraid to show emotion or ask for help. He was truly a man of wisdom and discernment. He cared about you and was fully present whenever he was with you. He easily, created an emotional intimacy that led to deep personal connections. He had a dozen nicknames and terms of endearment for those he loved. Danny's heart was with his boys, his little bears, delicious ones, wonder balls, and magical ones. He was in awe of them. He loved teaching them about his deep faith, tradition, ritual, and the importance of community, family, and friends. He was a shamelessly proud and involved father. From before their birth until his death, and every single moment in between, Danny glowed with love and pride in his boys. As someone who appreciated fine art, Danny found no art better than that of his sons, and their artwork was frequently displayed throughout his house. As a music lover, Danny found no sound sweeter than that of his boys singing. Whenever he could, often daily, he would go to preschool just to share snack time with them. He was one of the best fathers you could ever meet, and his boys deserve to know him. On a personal level, having experienced both the murder of a close childhood friend in 1982 and personal violence as an adult, I was cut to the core by Danny's murder. It tore open wounds and removed any sense of peace or safety I had struggled to rebuild. I believe in me and supported me in healing from trauma he believed in me and supported me in healing from trauma when some others did not. He was a comfort, a shelter in the storms of life, a place of refuge. His needless death left me without a safe haven and tore a hole in my heart. The month before he died, he took me out to dinner for my birthday, and we shared our latest hopes and dreams. His violent loss was jarring. This knowledge that while I was working less than 2 miles away, my beloved friend had been gunned down in the supposed safety of his home garage was heartbreaking. It also meant that the house where I'd spent many hours with my friend, where I had felt loved and understood, now felt tainted and unsafe. Indeed, safety was an illusion if in broad daylight such a monstrous crime could occur. Every new detail of his murder added to painful disbelief and loss of ability to trust those one once thought known. My children cried when I told them what had happened. Having to explain to my children that Danny was murdered in the house where they had played with his children was unthinkable. Tallahassee itself became associated with a lack of safety and peace for our family, and we moved from the area soon after his loss, never wishing to return. Watching their mother grieve deeply affected my children greatly. Danny's loss continues to deeply affect his friends and family around the world. It impacted the Tallahassee community, the state of Florida, and the nation. The callous disregard for life and cold calculation of his murder, in addition to those long 9 years waiting for everyone involved to be brought to justice, have left family and friends grieving indefinitely with an open wound, seekers of justice disheartened, and shocked members of the public yearning for the full truth, so that such a self-serving, premeditated, heinous act will never be viewed as inconsequential and repeated. No combination of words, however eloquent, can fully capture Danny's spirit, can fully convey his passion for life, can adequately pay him full tribute. Danny gave a little bit of himself to everyone he touched, and he remains a blessing in their hearts. His memory brings joy, peace, and healing. Danny was a dear friend to so many and to me. I love him always, and I will miss him forever. For all who knew him, his loss leaves a void that cannot be filled. Dan Markell was simply irreplaceable. Sincerely, Tamra Demko. That's what I have for today. Please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, share this episode, leave me a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Sign up for my Patreon, where you can send me a tip via Buy Me a Coffee or Venmo. It's all in the description of this episode. Have a great night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow at 6 p.m. Easter.